Last week, we looked at the teams that overperformed their preseason win total. Now, let's look at the other side. These teams had high, medium, or even low expectations, and they all fell way short. Before we start, if you can drop this video a like, I'd appreciate it. It helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. Just like last week, let's give Vegas their due. We're going to talk about how wrong they were for these 5 teams, but we'll give them credit for getting one right. Last week it was the A's, projected for 86.5 and winning 86. Now let's look at the Royals, projected for 74.5 and winning 74. The Royals fell off quickly after winning the World Series, playing 500 ball in 2016 and 2017, then losing over 100 games in 2018 and 2019. That 2019 team being 14th in the American League in runs and 13th in ERA. It's hard to judge based on a short season, but they were only 8 games under 500 in 2020, and their ERA went down almost a full run, ranking 6th at 430. After winning fewer than 60 games in 2018 and 2019, Vegas gave the Royals a 74 win mark for 2021, and they nailed it. The ERA was better at 465, still only 11th, but a lot closer to their 430 mark in 2020, as opposed to their 520 mark in 2019, and their offense was still sputtering, only ranking 13th. But they did get 48 homers out of Sal Perez, a really good season from Nicky Lopez, and they led the majors in stolen bases, swiping 124 bags. It looks like the Royals are on their way back up. Number 5. The New York Mets, projected for 90.5, 177. The Mets were a hot pick to win the NL East before the season. With a 90-win projection, they were just 1 game behind the Braves. Cano was still suspended. Cespedes did not re-sign with the team, but the Mets were welcoming in Francisco Lindor and James McCann. On the pitching side, they were getting Marcus Stroman back after opting out in 2020, and they added Taijuan Walker. For the first half, Jacob deGrom was having an insane season. It wasn't until his 15th start on July 7th that his ERA rose above 1. Unfortunately for the Mets, that was his final start. His arm injury putting him on the shelf for the rest of the season. The Mets were in first place for most of the year, but they only peaked at 11 games over 500 on June 16th. On July 30th, the Mets traded for Javi Baez, and in his first game, he hit a big 2-run home run in a comeback walk-off win over the Reds. That was the high point for the Mets, up 5 games in the East going into August. They lost 7 out of 8 and fell into second place. Then, after sweeping the Nats to move back into first, they won only 2 out of their next 14, almost all of those games coming against the Dodgers and the Giants. By the end of that slide, they were 5 games under 500 and 7.5 games back. To cap it off, they went on another 1-11 run in mid-September. From August 1st through the end of the season, they were 21-37. Through July 31st, they were playing .538 ball, on pace for an 87-win season, but that second half collapse was epic. Tied for number 3, the San Diego Padres, projected for 94.5, 179. Some people had the Padres winning 100 games and winning the NL West. This was a team on the upswing, going 37-23 in 2020, a .617 winning percentage, good for 100 wins in a full season. They went out and got 2 good starting pitchers, Yu Darvish and Blake Snell. They were locked and loaded, and in the first half, they looked great. On June 30th, they won their 11th out of 12, 16 games over 500, just 2.5 games back in the West. They played about 500 ball through August 10th, sporting a 67-49 record, 6.5 games back, and then it all fell apart. They lost 7-0 in Miami on August 11th, and that started the drastic slide. They won 12 games between August 11th and October 3rd, all the while losing 34. It was a horrendous epic collapse, and a slam dunk wildcard spot disappeared in those final weeks. There was turmoil in the dugout. Jace Tingler was fired, and the Padres will do their best to forget 2021. Tied for number 3, the Minnesota Twins, projected for 88.5, 173. Back-to-back first-place finishes in 2019 and 2020. This gave Vegas a lot of confidence in the Twins. After winning 101 games in 2019 and being on a 97-win pace in 2020, you could argue that 88 was a low-ball number. Their only big loss going into 2021 was Jake Odorizzi. He signed with the Astros. Still, 88.5 means you're expected to be good. The Astros were even a game behind that. Unlike the Mets and the Padres, the Twins never got going. They were 14-28 on May 20th, already 11.5 games back in the Central, and they didn't have a winning month in the first half. By the trade deadline, they were 43-61, 18 games back, and they sold off all their veteran players to get prospects. Jose Barrios went to the Blue Jays, Nelson Cruz to the Rays, Hansel Robles to the Red Sox, and J.A. Happ to the Cardinals. Following these trades, the Twins had their first winning month in August. In September, they played just 1 game under 500, and in October, they won 2 out of 3. They finished those last 2 months of the season 29-28. Go figure. It seems like maybe this team found their stride in the second half, and maybe that bodes well for them going into 2022. Number 2, the Washington Nationals, projected for 84.5, 165. After winning the 2019 World Series, the Nats lost Anthony Rendon in free agency, but they were able to re-sign Steven Strasburg. This was important. Their championship team was second in runs scored, but only 8th in ERA. Their 2020 offense was still good, finishing 6th in runs, and getting insanely great seasons from Juan Soto and Trey Turner. But the pitching tanked. Strasburg only pitched 2 games, and the rest of the staff wasn't good. Daniel Hudson only converted 10 out of 15 saves, posting a 6.10 ERA. With a 5.09 ERA, the team finished 13th in the National League. They only won 26 games, a 70-win pace over a full season. Vegas saw this as a one-off, but still put them at barely over 500. They picked up Josh Bell, Kyle Schwarber, Brad Hand, and John Lester, helping out that strong core. They had a rough start, losing 5 out of their first 6, and they were 8 games under 500 at the end of May. They turned it on in June, going 19-9, ending the month 2 games over 500 and in second place. As good as June was, July was just as miserable, only winning 8, dropping 18, finishing the month 8 games under 500, in 4th place and 8 games back in the East. Goodbye, John Lester, Yan Gomes, Josh Harrison, Brad Hand, Daniel Hudson, Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, and Max Scherzer. Unlike the Twins, the Nats suffered after that big sell-off. From August 1st on, they were 17-41, completely tanking their overall record. Steven Strasburg followed his 2-start 2020 with a 5-start 2021. Juan Soto had a near MVP season, but that alone couldn't save the Nats. Number 1. The Arizona Diamondbacks, projected for 74.5, 152. 74.5 wins isn't good to start with. It's the same mark the Royals got before the season. Arizona hadn't been too bad leading up to 2021. After their great 2017 playoff year, they were a little over 500 in 2018 and 2019, but they really fell off in the 2020 season. They didn't play too bad. They were 13-11, but then lost 18 out of 20, dropping to 15-29 in a short year. You can't recover from that. A 10-6 finish brought them to a 25-35 season. That doesn't look good on paper, and Vegas was only calling for a 74-win season. It's hard to believe that a 52-win team ended April 2 games over 500, but they had a miserable time from then on. They only won 5 games in May, and if you think that was bad, they only won 3 games in June. This included a 13-game losing streak, a 3-game break, and then a 17-game losing streak. At one point, they lost 24 straight road games, a new MLB record. Oh, and they only won 6 games in September. They finished 12th in runs scored, their one bright spot being Ketel Marte, sporting a 909 OPS, but he only played 90 games. Their pitching was dead last in the league, posting a team ERA of 5.11, with all the starters having an ERA well over 4. It's bad when the most disappointing team in baseball was only expected to win 74 games, but that was the 2021 Diamondbacks. Just a miserable season. That's all for the biggest flops of the 2021 season. Let me know if you have any thoughts on these teams, and if any of them have any hope going into next year. Before you go, be sure to drop a like, and give me a sub for more content just like this. If you want to see the biggest surprises of 2021, click that card in the bottom left corner. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.